Come all young sailormen, listen to me. I'll sing you a song of the fish in the sea. Blow, ye winds, westerly, westerly blow. We're bound to the southward, so steady she goes.
Good evening. Good evening. Hello, welcome. First of all, thank you 1015 for hosting. I just got to meet the ownership here. What a great space. Really glad to get to MC here and then later play. My first time MCing, it's about my 7th Fisher Poets. I've met Brad years ago here in Astoria, and we've connected a couple times since. So it's always really great to see familiar faces and wonderful to meet new. I always meet more new than I do see old because it's just such an expanding group of folks either visiting or participating. So thank you so much. We're going to get it started. Your first set. There may be 1 or 2 people missing because of weather-related travel issues and things. So we'll just kind of take it as it goes and fill it in. But to start here this evening is Jan Bono, Long Beach, Washington. Let's give her a hand.
Thank you. Yes, if you want to have a floor show too, just have me try and get up those stairs without having a cane or a help. You know, this is great. I can't see anybody here, so I'm speaking to an audience of none. That is really, make a noise or something. I'm good. Thank you. I am Jan Bono. I am from Long Beach, Washington. I've been over there for 45 years, a long time, and I have never commercial fished. That's my disclaimer. Okay, but my claimer is that my grandfather on my dad's side was a commercial fisherman on the Mississippi River back in the 1920s and 30s and 40s. And none of his 8 kids followed him onto the river, the old man in the sea, but he inspired us all to have a love of fishing. And my father sport fished, still does, he's 90s something, 4 or 5. And I was his fishing buddy from the time I was 2 until I was in my 20s and took off for college. And he taught me the love of being out there just holding a pole, waiting for something to bite the line. And he tied a rope around my waist when I was 2 and tied the other end to the oarlocks. Because he said he wasn't sure if I could float. That was before we had, little life preservers for kids too. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but it's old. So, and then when I moved down to Long Beach, Washington, I started a teaching career down there, and I married, drum roll please, a commercial fisherman. So I refer to that now as my practice marriage. I'm still waiting for the real thing, but that was the warm-up thing. So I am your warm-up act for tonight, and and I will begin now by honoring the family I came from with a poem that's called "It Runs in the Family." And unlike some people, I have to take my glasses off to read. I know, there's other things that are backwards about me too, but that's the big one. I never met my grandfather on my father's side. My dad was only 16 when his old man died. But I've heard many tales of the risks he took on the Mississippi River while out setting a hook. My father's father was a fisherman by trade, working hard to earn every single dollar that he made. Gramps spent nearly all his life out there on the river, glad the fish buyers met the boat when he delivered. He caught German carp and drum and pike, but the tasty yellow catfish was what they'd really like. Yellow catfish paid a needed 5 cents a pound more and helped him keep the wolf away from their door. The boys helped out in summer when the hot sun shined. They set hoop nets from the boat and managed the jump lines. Each line had 50 hooks, and they were 10 feet apart. Pulling them in took muscles and a great amount of heart. One day, the boys were fishing, just standing on the shore, when a catfish took their line, pulled hard, and wanted more. They wrestled that fish in, though he put up quite a fight. It was the biggest catfish ever. Oh, it was quite a sight. They stuck a heavy tree branch right through the monster's gills, hoisted up on their shoulders and carried it on the hill. They used a cotton scale to weigh it, so no exaggerating, guessing while the weights were balanced, just anticipating. 39 pounds of catfish, the scale proclaimed. That catfish is huge, all the neighbors exclaimed. They got their picture taken, though cameras were rare. Doc on the left, Frank on the right, the credit did they share. Not one of 8 kids followed that old man to the sea, but my father loved to sport fish, and he passed that on to me. And when I eat fried catfish with Creole mayonnaise, I'm grateful for my heritage and father's good old days. And in case you think that's a fishtail, there's a picture here. This one is called The Smell of Money, and it's kind of self-explanatory. I looked forward to his returning and cooked his favorite meal, but one whiff of him as he crossed the lawn made my head begin to reel. I ran inside and locked him out and peered through the window glass. "What the hell?" he bellowed. "Open up and let me pass." He was covered in scales and gooey slime and all kinds of stinky stuff. So I told him just to wait outside because I'd already smelled enough. "Just what am I supposed to do? I can't strip naked while out here." "Oh, yes you can," I hollered back. "I've put up with this for years." I placed a beer out on the porch and a stack of fresh, clean clothes. But what I really wanted to do was spray him down with the hose. "If you're going to make a scene," he said, "make a scene when you see my check. We'll be able to take that vacation you wanted and rebuild the crumbling deck." He almost had me giving in and unlocking the kitchen back door, but I didn't want his boots to track across my kitchen floor. His face was turning purple, and I feared the look in his eyes, as I knew I'd have to find a way we'd make a compromise. "How about you shed just your boots and cap and your jacket and shirt and jeans? I'll let you keep your skivvies on and your socks if they're still clean." "Nothing doing," he said right away. "I'd be a laughing stock. I'm not undressing just to give the neighbors something to mock." We glared at each other in silence, not willing to give an inch, until the buzzer on the oven made me the first to flinch. I had to rescue dinner before it was all burned. You can't ignore the timer was a lesson I'd already learned. But as soon as I had left my post, I heard the doors swing free. Hadn't taken him very long to find my hidden key. He paraded through the kitchen, dropping clothes over here and over there. So when he got to the shower, he was down to his underwear. "You bastard," I shouted after him. "You don't fight fair at all." I should have saved my breath. I was just talking to the wall. But then I happened to notice what else he'd dropped, that filthy pig. But I had to squint my eyes real small because the numbers were so big. Well, maybe just this one more time I'd forgive his smelly clothes, and learn to do the laundry with a clothespin on my nose. For the check I held was hefty and would get us even on the rent. And on all the other bills, I knew this would make one hell of a dent. So I went back into the kitchen and poured 2 glasses of wine so we could toast his safe return, though he still smelled less than fine. Well, all my poems are true stories, and the next 2 are a little more somber than that last one. This one was a man who was the owner of the boat my husband fished on, but he was out on another boat checking it out when they capsized. Their fishing boat had capsized in towering 20-foot seas. The 5-foot life raft tossed about on a vicious, freezing breeze. 2 men had made it to the raft, but they couldn't reach 2 more crew. Another was stranded below the deck, and there was nothing they could do. There'd been no time to don the suits, which would have helped them stay afloat. The trawler rolled fast, and then it sank. No distress signal from the boat. The waves increased to 40 feet. No point in trying to use the oars. They were headed north on the current along the Washington shore. After 40 hours at the ocean swim, the raft drifted close to the beach. They could see the lights of cabins that the men thought they might be able to reach. They heard the waves break on the beach, a quarter mile at best. They could sense their time was now, and this would put them to the test. Tumbled over and over in the surf, 3/4 drowned and mouthful of sand, one of them made it to the shore and crawled out on the land. 2 men had struggled in the dark, but only one emerged alone, somehow broke into a summer place where he used their telephone. "You've made it this far," the dispatcher said, "and I know that you are weak, but flash the inside house lights for the ambulance to seek." His rescuers drove up the beach where his family had often played. He thought of his wife and children, kept him from being so afraid. When they'd left the port together, the crew had numbered 5, but the fickle ocean mistress let only one come home alive. I was hoping that was as close as disaster would get to us, but it also took his brother-in-law, and this is dedicated and is about him, called "God Bless the Captain." They say the day was rather calm when the Golden Venture went down. 3 of the 4 who'd been on board were in the life raft that was found. The fishing vessel that picked them up was called the Hazel Lorraine back then. The distress call came from the captain, who thought only of his men. The trawler was simply making a turn like hundreds of times before. Her net was down when she came around, but disaster was in store. She went down near Yanoska Island in the Aleutian Island chain. 3 men were saved, but 1 was lost, and his name was Rodney Main. We know he died a noble death, but what about his wife? How hard it must have been for her to carry on with life. But men who fish for a living can't stay on land for long. The sea will always call them with a beautiful siren song. God bless the fishing vessels wherever they may roam, and God, please do the best you can to bring them all safely home. Okay, back to the levity. A bathtub of Chinook. I'd been married several years to a midwater dragger deckhand. Brown rock cod became a staple, fried, grilled, poached, or canned. He considered me a city girl when I became his wife, and he figured I didn't know how to use a fish filleting knife. So I sat back and let him think I couldn't clean no fishes. But nevertheless, I cooked his meal and made his favorite dishes. And when he wasn't out on the ocean, he sometimes fished for fun. And I might even go with him when there was a salmon run. At dawn one day, we struck it rich, quickly claiming our limit of Chinooks. Of course, I played the girl card and made him take out all the hooks. When we got home, he'd had a call and had to leave right away for the dock. So he threw our fish in the bathtub where he'd said he'd clean them later. What a crock. Now, I wanted to shower something fierce, but the fish were in my way, and I couldn't picture sharing the slime-filled tub with them that day. So I hauled them out one by one and gutted and cleaned and sliced, then packaged them up for the freezer and lined them all up in rows so nice. He got home late and cursed the fact we'd ever caught those fish. He said he'd hoped they'd disappeared. It would be his greatest wish. So I told him his wish was granted, that I'd given all the fish away to our neighbors down the street, really made their day. He hurried to the bathroom, saw the tub with no Chinook. I wished I'd had a camera to record his horrified look. He fumed, and he fussed, and he stomped around, called me a lousy whore. So I held my hand to stop him before he could say any more. Out to the garage I led him, opened the freezer door wide to see those salmon roasts and steaks all lined up there inside. He asked me who had done that, who had come and done this chore. I confessed that I'd been cleaning fish since I was only 4. He assumed I couldn't butcher fish, that I was just a pretty face. I guess he now learned his who assumes, and I'd put him in his place. But my story is a sad one, and it ends not quite so well, as from then on I was left to clean every fish from heaven or hell.
Oh Lord, same damn river. 40 years of working, all I had to give her. Hard on my back and it won't get better. Gonna put that riverboat down forever. Load up firewood and cotton. Folks who got the tickets and the folks who never bought 'em. Lean against the throttle, hope we get her off the bottom. Hear that whistle in the middle of the night, forgotten.